Scribbled notes, scribbled notes when I wrote these quotes. If I offend, pardon me, there's more of me to grow. Creative in my process, enjoy the show. The will is different when you recognize the different strokes. Different folks, same goals, we all want the most. So when we reach the top, we can enjoy the toast. The type of bread we get is fresh about the bakery. Told them don't play with me, with or without a degree. Don't question my intensity, bravery. Similar to agencies that want to see you fold. So just pray for me. Yeah, Einstein with my energy.
I mean, I think world building is always a really exciting thing to read because it has so much space to be whatever the author wants. So I think that's always really intriguing, especially when there's like some kind of magic system or something like that that's just like totally new. It's always can be really surprising to learn about whatever they're putting into the world. I'm thinking about like how Holly Black, Leigh Bardugo, and Sarah J. Maas all write to the same kind of audience, but all have very different worlds and very different characters. And I always think that's cool, like to compare and contrast authors like that who are writing to the same people, but are able to, create nuanced and diverse worlds and characters.
Yeah, that's like a really good point. That stuff really matters. Like the world building can do so much to differentiate a story, and there's so much space to be creative within world building that I think it's like if a book is too similar or if it follows what everyone's doing or everyone's already done, it really diminishes how like the reading experience overall, because you just don't get as much. You don't get anything new or fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was gonna ask another question about a very specific book and being like, have you it was gonna be I'm not gonna ask the question, but it's gonna be like what new author have you found this year that you never read before that you were blown away by? That's very specific, and I was like, that is
I have an answer if you want one.
Oh, okay, let's
I
answer
do have
it
one
then, because I wasn't gonna I was like, that's just putting her on the spot.
No, I have one for this. I'm prepared. I recently read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. He wrote A Man Called Uwe and Beartown, books like that. And I have a bunch of his books. I've just never gotten around to reading them. And finally, I'm in a book club with my friends and we read Anxious People and I was blown away by it. Like, I think it was, this is great transition. This was one of my favorite books of the year. I think it was like my second or third favorite of the year. So to come back to that question. But I loved his writing style. I think it was amazing, and amazing also for a translation because I believe he's Swedish. And so for it to be translated so well was also really, really cool. And I was just obsessed with the way that he wrote characters and the way that he wrote stories. I will definitely be checking out more of what he has written in 2022.
It's awesome. See, so it worked out. That was great. I'm always interested because I take a lot of recommendations as someone who does not read nearly as many books as probably you do. I take a lot of recommendations about what to read from like reviewers. How do you think the role of reviewer, where do you think that plays as far as informing the rest of the audience? Because there are so many books to read. There is so much to get through. What do you think?
That's really true. It's such a scary thought to have that like I'm actually influencing people's reading tastes, because I started doing it just like talk to other people and have like a conversation, but I see people actually be like, oh, I'm gonna pick that up, and I'm like, oh, good luck, like I hope you like it. I think it's really cool to find some like another reviewer or somebody who has like the same taste as you and then like kind of rely on their tastes, and I find like it really cool to be that for some people. I find it like such a huge honor to potentially be that for some people. I think that book reviewers are really important and really critical in the publishing process, and so to have any influence over what somebody reads is a very high honor for me.
Yeah, it's a major piece, and I think you touched on something really quickly that really matters. Like even just talking to people about different books that you have, and just like friends, and before you even started a channel, it's like you're making an influence on someone's decision because people are hearing you, and then you get a channel, and now you're like even more so. People are like really going to you, so it becomes really awesome and really important because reviews really help kind of curate the audience.
That's so true. Yeah.
There's a huge skew. Like the more everyone's gonna cover the big books, the big ones that you don't really need marketing for, but reviews are really how you find out about these other books that exist and these other authors that might not be Brandon Sanderson. And you can be like, oh, that's a really, really good author. I'm gonna keep picking up their books. So I think that's important.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So in terms of reviews, how do you go? What's your process for how you star rate or however you rate books?
Well, actually, there's a booktuber, I believe her name is Book Roast, I think, and she has this spreadsheet that she's created called Cowpile. It's CAWPILE, and each of those acronyms stands for a different aspect of the book. And when you put in, okay, this is so complicated, but
go ahead.
C stands for like characters. So you would rate the characters like 1 out of 10, and A is atmosphere. You put it in a spreadsheet 1 out of 10, and it does some magical like math wizardry and calculates what it suggests your star rating should be. And I literally depend on that for my ratings because it really helps me like when I'm like in between, I'm like, oh, is it 2, is it 3, or like 3 or 4? It helps me narrow down like and think about, okay, what were the characters like, what was the atmosphere like, what was the writing like? And she has it on her Booktube channel. She just came out with the 3rd version of it, which now has half stars. And yeah, I download it every year on my Google Drive, and I use that, and that's kind of what I depend on for how I rate my books.
That is so cool.
It really is. I love spreadsheets, so I'm like so obsessed with it.
Like I would have never even thought to do that. Like that's just such a cool rubric. And with
she's an actual genius.
Yeah, like that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, because rating books is also like a really interesting. It's a really interesting process for a lot of people. I know from some people who have like had beta read and stuff, they've told me about their process for rating, and it's always different. And I think that's also important for people to know. It's like you gotta know how someone's rating their book, because if not, you're kind of going off of whatever random opinion someone might have.
And also, some people are more like they want their characters to be like the center, and other people want the like world building and the writing to be the center. So it's also it heavily varies based on people and their moods and their bias and everything. There's so much that goes into it.